And welcome, everybody. We are officially calling to order this regular meeting of the Truckee-Donner Public Utility District. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Director Morrell?
Am I live?
It's
Here.
not a vote. It's roll
Director
call.
Randall?
Here.
Director Bender is absent at the moment. Vice President La Leotis?
Here.
President Finn?
Here. Thank you very much. As you're willing and able, please join us for the pledge tonight. Courtney, would you like to lead it?
Sure, I'll lead it. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes this evening.
Very good. Item number 5, public comment. So this is time that we set aside for the public to come in and comment on any subject that is not on the agenda tonight. Testimony related to any agendized items should occur at the time of that agenda is addressed. Do we have any public comment, any free-range public comment this evening? No? Anything from the internets? Okay, very good. Moving on to director updates. This time is for the directors to comment on any item within the purview of the district that is not on the agenda. So,
Want me to start?
why not?
Sure.
Welcome.
First meeting. Sorry about missing last month, but I was out of the country, and it was something that I set up prior to the election, so followed through, and it was a great trip, and glad to be here.
Thank you. Director Randall.
No update. Thank you for everyone's hard work.
Thank you, Director Laliotis.
I do. I actually have 3 different comments. I had the opportunity to go to the Northern California Power Agency Conference a couple of weeks ago. It was really great for me, being a new director and new on the scene, and being able to meet all the players within that agency and where our public utility district sits within that. This was just power, not water. So anyway, it was really good learning for me. I felt very welcome, and people were really receptive, and so it was really great kickstart, if you will. And Steve, I'm sorry you missed that, because next year it'll be for you. I thought it was really informative for me, so I was glad I went, and some staff went also. Let's see, secondly, I want to, is my microphone live? Okay.
Yeah.
Do I have it right? Okay.
The red dot might be like on the, there you go.
Something wasn't right. Is that better? Yeah, thank you. I want to comment on the courteous driving from our PUD staff out there on the roads. In the yellow trucks. I want to say, I don't know, for those of you who don't know, I teach driver's training, and I have students in my car, and so we make that turn in front of the PUD into the ball fields all the time. And so, of course, people coming out of the PUD wanting to make that left turn toward east on Donner Pass Road. But I want to comment, and I'm sorry I do not know the employee's name. He wore a dark beard. So that could be a number of employees. That's all I could see through the windshield. But as he came in to make that left turn, he slowed down and yielded to my student so my student could make the turn. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the courteous driving we have here within our orange, yellow trucks out there on Donner Pass Road and elsewhere in town. And then lastly, last board meeting, the board voted to approve a scholarship fund for vocational as well as four-year degree scholarships. And I do want to say, I certainly voted in favor of it. The rest of the directors did also. But I already know of one student who's interested in that program. So that student is not a senior this year, but news will travel. And so I just wanted to give sort of a front lines report that that's well received and there's interest out there. So I'm proud of that program and to see it move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's great to hear already. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Officially, would like to welcome Director Randall to the team here on the dais. I very much look forward to your contributions. Like Director Morell, I attended CMUA's Capital Day this past Monday. I was joined by Brian and Stephen and Alex and Chad. As always, fascinating and informative. The biggest takeaway this year, the biggest focus industry-wide is probably no surprise, affordability. Public power and water are setting the bar for affordability and safety and reliability right now, which really points to the importance of local control and decision-making. How we can all, statewide agree on goals, but the path to attainment really has to look different for different communities. And the CMUA, which is the California Municipal Utilities Association and the Northern California Power Association, really are wonderful allies in this work. We didn't actually, usually on Capitol Day, you meet with your representatives, and we have two new representatives now, Assemblywoman Hadwick and Senator Alvarado Gil. We didn't actually end up having a chance to meet with our representatives themselves. We met with staff because they were participating in an emergency legislative session. So, this is not kind of a business as usual moment. Sort of the traditional obligations and responsibilities of our government are seemingly being abandoned left and right. And it's creating uncertainty in our districts and fear in our communities, which again points to the value and the necessity of local government and community action. Employees here at the PUD are, we're called to serve. We are public servants, not just in this room, but here, here on earth. And at this moment, some of our community is more in need of protection and support than usual. I personally have set up a recurring donation to Sierra Community House at this moment. They are really under a lot of stress for their services. And I would like my fellow board members and even staff to sort of put their minds and their hearts to other ways that we can help quell fear and misinformation in our community. The PUD already has a really productive partnership with Sierra Community House. They help us with the administration of our low-income and assistance programs. Perhaps we can figure out ways to support them, for example, by paying for their services in advance to try and enable them to function more effectively during this high-stress moment. And of course, this is something we would have to be able to do legally, and it has to support our mission. But I don't think this is a moment where we can afford to sort of divorce our duties and responsibilities from compassion. So anyhow, thank you, and I appreciate your consideration. And that's my comment for tonight. And that moves us into opening our public hearing. So we're going to put our regular board meeting on hold, and we are now going to open a public hearing for the intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan. And I believe we have.
Do we do director?
President Finn, if
Department.
we have department updates for the board, if we can switch the order for sure.
I very much apologize. I just rolled right through the
No
public
problem.
hearing that's on my face.
We do have some updates for the board and our community.
Because it is my favorite part of the evening, actually. I tried to skip my favorite part of the night.
President Finn, we'll keep these comments short so that way we make sure and get to the part that you're hoping to get to.
This is the part that I'm hoping to get
My name
to.
is. Good evening, board members. My name is Chad Reed, and I have the opportunity to present for the Water Department today. So we're going to start off with a graphic that you guys have seen throughout this entire year, and what this is tracking is our potable water that we're producing from our wells. And one of the things that we wanted to kind of bring to attention is that we're about 2% over that of last year. So we're tracking very closely. When we compare December to December, we're about 8% below, and then if we take the 3-month average of those, it'd be about 6%. And so as we're going through this, why we're talking about this at this point is this is extremely, it's going to become very important as we get into conservation, a way of life. And so this is, we know some regulation that is coming. It is something that we're going to be reporting on, and the state is very concerned about how are we handling our city, or in what ways are we helping people to conserve? I guess that's a better way of saying what I'm trying to say, of how do we get people there and how do we get down to a threshold that they're deeming to be appropriate? However, this year, we also know that the Water Department has some major planning efforts that are going to be going forth. So Neil's already hard at work on the master plan, and this is going to be a huge lift for him to do, as well as we know that we have our facilities replacement plan. So a lot of times you hear us talk about our capital improvement plan and the facilities replacement plan. Both are used almost in concurrent, or they're used together with regards to deciding what do we need to replace? When is the useful life of something going to be done? Knowing how much money is it going to take to do this? As one thing that has been consistent over the years, every project that we put off costs more the subsequent year. And every time we put things off, it's going to cost more. So with this planning, this dovetails perfectly into the cost of service agreement. That's the third one that we're seeing over there. Both of these will be done by outside firms, or staff is anticipating them to be done by outside firms. But the cost of services, how are the rates? Are rates going to fund these things that we're talking about? Or are we not collecting enough money to keep the vital service going that we have? The last one is, this is a year that ends in 0 and 5. And so in that time, we always have our urban water management plan. The guidelines for it will be coming out this year, which means we start working on it. It will not be finished this year. However, a lot of the lifting to do will be started this year. And so this is the year that we get to do a lot of computer time, I guess is the best way to put it. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Reed.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Stephen Poncelet, welcome tonight. For Communications and Strategic Affairs, the board kind of took a little of my thunder away. Thank you for being there at these events. But we did attend the NCPA Strategic Conference in Sacramento. List of speakers was, the head of the California Independent System Operator, talking about regionalization and the Western Pathways Initiative. We had Cliff Rechtschaffen, a new board member for the California Air Resources Board, and talked to him a bit about the Advanced Clean Fleets. Continuing speakers, Chair of the California Energy Commission was up there, and Randy Howard and his great team from NCPA, and then, dozens of public power utilities all in the same room. All right, I think we have a double there, go ahead. And then we also did Capitol Day, which was this Monday. Starts at 7:30 in the morning with an NCPA Legislative and Regulatory Affairs meeting, CMUA kind of mini conference through lunch, lobbying and advocacy meetings with our representatives and key regulators throughout the day. We did meet with Assembly Hadwick's staff and Senator Alvarado Gil's staff. We met with California Air Resources Board staff. That meeting focused on cap and trade reauthorization, which is an important revenue stream for the district. And they have issue papers. Affordability was at the center of every discussion. Cap and trade reauthorization, regionalization, and then CMUA has a couple water bills they're pushing on water resource and planning, and then low income. And then always, unfortunately these days, a lot of talk about the Advanced Clean Fleets regulation and wildfire. List of speakers was, again, very impressive. They had about 200 people, I think, in the CMUA portion. And chair of the California Air Resources Board, again, very important for us. A lot of legislative leaders from the Senator and the Assembly. And it was really great to have the strong and TDPUD team that we did there. Had a lot of good meetings, did a lot of good networking. Next. We also talk typically about communications during this update, and I'm going to be somewhat brief because we have a very detailed workshop coming later in the meeting. But in terms of kind of January media coverage, we had a press release for the January board meeting recap. We were twice in the APPA newsletters. Sierra Sun picked up our press releases, as did the Northwest Public Power Association on a couple different of issues. So we're out there communicating, and we'll give you a lot more detail later. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Good evening, President Finn and members of the board. Jillian Stewart, HR and Risk Director. First, I want to start with introducing our new district clerk and executive assistant, Martina Rochefort. We're excited to have her join our team. Last Monday was her first day, and she comes from us from Tahoe Forest Hospital with about 10 years there in the same position. So welcome, Martina. Next up is our core values recognition winners for January. First up, we have timeliness. Our winners are Greg Martin, Carlos Reyes, and Tracy Pearson, members of the accounting team, and they're always looking for ways to make processes more efficient. One long-term goal was to add exempt materials, so items such as meters, transformers, and switches, to their corresponding serial number into a warehouse inventory. However, with the continued progress being made in the implementation of another project, mapping and staking, the need for exempt materials to be added to the warehouse inventory became a priority. Not wanting to slow the momentum of the mapping and staking project, Greg, Carlos, and Tracy quickly stepped in to make this happen before year end. The three of them worked together to learn the process, do a physical inventory of all exempt materials, and then make sure the process flowed correctly through NISC and the barcode scanners. This type of collaboration and teamwork is what makes the employees of the PUD so special. Big thank you to Greg, Tracy, and Carlos. Your efforts are appreciated. Next up is winning for accountability is Kristen Bombach, our billing specialist. Monthly billings have been particularly challenging recently due to new power cost adjustments and time of use rates, as well as new metering issues for both water and electric. Kristen consistently demonstrates accountability and a strong work ethic to research and resolve issues for our customers. Her knowledge and experience are a great benefit both to the district and to our ratepayers. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian, and congratulations and thank you, Carlos, Greg, Tracy, and Kristen. That's
Good evening, President Finn and directors. Scott Crow, IT Director, CIO. Next slide. So real quick, I want to go over this tech teams. This got started last year. It started out of the group of local agencies have a cybersecurity working group where they meet monthly roughly and talk about cybersecurity issues and whatnot. An idea came about from that group about engaging with high school students on IT technology. Well, that idea transformed into technology in general at the different agencies. So what this program is, it's a 7-week-long program that starts in like March and April, and the students who are chosen by the high school spend a week at each of the, or each week they go to a different agency, and they spend a couple hours there while they're shown different technologies that are used at the agency, right? So last year here at the district, as you can see in the pictures, we had the electric group kind of talk about how electricity flows and distribution. We had the water group talk about their SCADA system and how they use that tool in their water operations. They also talked about some technology that they use out in the field for water leak detection. IT talked about and showed students like back-end infrastructure and how we support services here at the district. It was such a success that it was carried over to this year. Our session here is in April 24th. And it was, again, successful enough that there are some new additional agencies that have joined on to that program as you'll see listed there. So just wanted to call that out. And then real quick here, last time I was up here, I talked about a long project that was completed around the water AMI system, advanced metering infrastructure. And that project came to an end, and I gave a quick technology review, hopefully it was quick, about AMI and kind of how that we use that here at the district. Well, today I want to quickly go over, hopefully quickly, enterprise resource planning systems, or if some people may know them as ERP. So there's a simple definition there. So it's a set of software tools combined in a single platform that organizations use to manage key business processes across various departments. So it's a simple definition. It's a complex system. The inner workings of an organization and their business processes are very, very complicated, and then to put them in a system makes it extremely harder as well. The ERP an ERP system is made up of different modules or functional areas, as you'll see here. There's some examples there. Like you'll have a functional area maybe for human resources or finance and accounting, customer service or customer service relations, warehouse inventory and management. And each one of these modules encapsulates a group of business processes around that functional area. So using HR as an example, you might have a process in HR for, say, employee onboarding. And that may include activities such as creating and managing employee records, setting up payroll and benefits, assigning roles and responsibilities, et cetera. There's a lot more business processes within that particular functional area, just like the rest of these functional areas as well. But that was just an example of a particular business process. Our ERP, we manage, and these are modules that you might see across other industries as well, right? They're pretty common business processes. Our ERP has additional modules that are kind of geared towards utility industries, right? So an example, we heard of mapping and staking, which is a module that we're working on now to implement, and it is around business processes for the electrical engineering group. Another module geared towards utilities, one that we've fairly recently implemented, the outage management system. That's a module in our ERP. That particular module has processes to allow us to better communicate with our ratepayers on outages, right? It has, it presents an outage map for users. We have our electric model in there so that some of the processes around electric operations as they manage planned and unplanned planned outages as well. So in my estimation, the biggest advantage, there's lots of advantages to having an ERP. The biggest advantage is the centralization of organizational business processes that use the same data source, right? An example of something like that would be if you can imagine, say, a company like Microsoft. They have well over 200,000 employees across the globe. And if you can think of every single organizational unit they have doing something completely different, using completely different data for some business process that they have. That's completely inefficient. There's no way that that could happen. So that's a far extreme example. We get many requests here at the district for different changes to some of our processes that we actually have in place. We get requests for new functions. We get requests for new modules. I talked about some of those modules. A newer module that we got a request for is workflow management. An example of a particular workflow might be something like creating a new electric service, right? So a customer goes onto our webpage, clicks a button to start a service. They enter the particular data that we're requesting, customer information, service type, whatever, hit submit. That starts an automatic process that it goes through. And that process may include routing to mapping and staking for engineering work. It may include an inventory pick list for some of the electrical components that we need to start the service. A work order is generated for the electrical group so they can go out and start the service. They go out, start the service, they come back, complete the service. It then starts another process of creating the customer and the billing information. So there's a lot that goes into these types of workflows, and it's across these modules, right? And so anyway, these are some of the requests that we get for additional things for our ERP. I bring all this up to talk about, well, real quick, as you can imagine from what I've said, there's a high potential for these types of changes and these additions to have negative impacts on other processes, on other departments, potentially ratepayers. So it's very important that we scrutinize those changes and kind of work through that process. So one of the things that we've recently done here is created essentially a work group for this ERP or a committee where we have district stakeholders across the different departments that use this tool. And they are there to meet and talk about these changes, to do research, and collaborate. And that's the main goal there, is the collaboration here at the district. And my goal is to hopefully maybe that's a model for the future, right? So, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So the more you learn, the more you know you don't know. It's amazing. Thank you.
Wanted to add one last kind of update or comment, kind of follow up on what was mentioned earlier. Received an email and a phone call from a couple of our partners at NCPA and CMUA, thanking our board for participating in both the NCPA Strategic Issues Conference and Capitol Day. I know those agencies appreciate, elected officials from local agencies are not only volunteering their time for public service, but they also have their own professional lives and other things going on. So taking that time for a couple of days, they're really appreciative of it. I'll keep the board apprised of the calendar for future events. We know that in March, we will have an opportunity for one of the federal energy conferences that NCPA hosts for federal energy issues. And then in April, I believe, we have CMUA's annual conference, so I'll keep the board. We have the rest of the calendar for the rest of the year. If you're interested in attending some of those, there's opportunities to gain some new insights into our industries, our services, but also kind of see what's out on the horizon for public utilities in California.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
I have a question.
Please.
I have a question for Scott and IT, actually. You talked about tech teams, which I think is really a cool program, and an interested group of people. And circling back to my director comment about the scholarship programs that we're launching, and I'm wondering if that is a promotional opportunity for the time that those teens are in the PUD space and kind of learning about tech as a way to say, hey, did you know? And I just want to talk a little bit about that. Has that started? I know you said April 24th, those teens are coming here, and I know the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, who we're partnering with, their deadline for scholarship applications is the end of March. So just going forward, I'm just looking at opportunities of how to recruit and get the word out.
Yeah, I know there's a press release that's being created and that goes out as well. I can follow up with some information about, how information might get to the high schools prior, right? And so maybe there's some way for us, along with the press release, to be able to get that information over to them in conjunction with this. So.
Very good. Do we have any other director comments or questions, or all good? Okay. Thank you all very much for your updates. I really do enjoy them. It's one of my favorite parts of the meeting, so thank you. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And now we have a public hearing at the appropriate moment. We are exiting the regular board meeting and entering a public hearing for the intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan, and I know that Stephen has information for us and for the public.
Good evening, President and members of the board. Stephen Ponsley with public hearing number 8. Okay. Good evening, Stephen Ponsley with public hearing number 8. I do have a presentation. It is the same presentation that I gave 2 weeks ago. I'm happy to go through it again if it's the pleasure of the board or the public, and otherwise we can skip that and go right to the action.
Well, board, how do you feel about receiving more information? And I'm also going to ask the public if any member of the public here this evening would like more information into here. We did hear this 1 month ago. So board-wise, I feel,
But this is the opportunity for public to comment who may not have been at
Yes.
the previous meeting. And so we'll be taking this information and then being able to comment with all the information presented. So,
I was going to put it out, if we have any folks in the room tonight, public, who would like to hear all the information. Maybe you saw the last meeting, maybe you didn't, but we're happy to go through it again. Any public comment?
Is there a summary slide, like at the end?
I believe there might be, but it's a pretty complex, actually.
we can certainly go through.
Order of
for here
events.
Specifically for the hearing.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, let's do it.
Well,
Let's
I
just
can
do
go
it.
through it fairly quickly. If I'm moving too quick, please let me know.
Absolutely, and we can pipe up if anybody has a question through the course of it.
All right, we have a long history of stewardship in the Martis Valley Groundwater Basin that includes collaboratively developing a groundwater management plan with North Star Community Services District and Placer County Water Agency in 2013. That plan has a whole bunch of science and collaboration. There was about $1 million put into a groundwater model in the basin, a climate model through the end of the century, and talked about what a GMP is. It's a plan. It's a multi-agency framework to ensure long-term quality and availability of water supply. Each plan's unique, and we went through a very large public process to deliver ours, and you end up with basin management objectives that are listed up there. Some of them you have to do, like manage within the Truckee River Operating Agreement, and others are, aspirational or goals, and, we always like BMO number 5, pursue and use the best available science and technology to inform the decision-making process. In 2014, State of California passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, that applied to medium and high priority basins. At the time, Martis Valley was medium priority, and that dragged us into a very large and complex set of regulations, and it also included the entitlement agencies, the town of Truckee, Placer County, and Nevada County. The 6 agencies collaboratively worked to comply with this regulation. We submitted an alternative submittal. That was a compliance path available that said if you can certify 10 years of sustainable operation, you can do this alternative submittal. We hired a certified hydrogeology firm that demonstrated 20 years of sustainable operation, and we submitted that to the state. Department of Water Resources. They had 2 years to review that, and it took them longer than that, and we started annual reporting and complying. 4 years into the process, the Department of Water Resources is required to review basin prioritization every 5 years. And this time we understood the impacts of it because SGMA didn't exist the previous time they had done it. And we engaged heavily. We found some flaws in their analysis, and we were successful in getting the Martis Valley Groundwater Basin reprioritized to very low. It is a healthy, well-managed, sustainable basin, and so we felt that was appropriate. And so we stopped the SGMA effort, and we decided that good groundwater resource planning is good for the basin, so we voluntarily went back to the groundwater management plan framework, and from 2013 to 19, we kind of reset the clock because we never implemented it and started from there. So lots of data and science. One of the things we did voluntarily in this process is in 2017, we used to only monitor twice as required by law groundwater levels. We have 15 or so groundwater monitoring wells, and we went to monthly monitoring, and it was a voluntary effort, but it started to build a database of seasonal variations that we really didn't have before. And what came out of all the studies and everything is the basin is well-managed and sustainable. So in our groundwater management plan, there's a commitment to do annual reports, and we've done them every year. We've hired a licensed hydrogeologist, and we have a stakeholder working group, and we've had a meeting with our hydrogeologist and let the local interests, have an hour with the report and the expert themselves. What's different this year is that the GMP in one of the actions that kind of sit underneath the management objectives says you'll review the actual plan every 5 years. And so that's what we're doing here tonight. And while we're doing this voluntarily, if you choose to update a groundwater management plan, Department of Water Resources does have a set of public processes and notification that we need to do if we want to be fully compliant with DWR. And so that's what we're doing here in the interest of good governance and open and transparency. So those are the same BMOs I had up there before, and part of the GMP review is to look at those. And then under section 3.1 of BMO 3, it talks about what will be in a 5-year review. Summary reports, discussion of progress to goals, management actions, and the like. So that's what we're undertaking in this review. So in 2024, again, in partnership now back with just the water agencies, so North Star CSD and PCWA, we did a RFP for the annual report that we always do, but also for the GMP update. The district has been the lead agency for these contracts in the past, and we split equally with our partners. So our board went ahead and awarded a contract to GEI Consulting after the competitive process to do those 2 tasks. And we started working with GEI on the project. They did the annual review first because it informs the update, because part of the 5-year update is has the status of the basin changed in any way. And then when they got into the GMP 5-year update part was where we came across these public process and notice requirements. And so this action tonight is the public hearing. This is a list of the steps that we are required to take to be in compliance, with DWR's public process and notice requirement. On January 15th, you set this public hearing through an action item. We did post in the Sierra Sun twice as required of this public hearing. Tonight, you're doing the public hearing, and we'll consider a resolution of intent to update a public hearing. And the concept here is we're going to do important work. They want interested stakeholders to know. And so this is us kind of shouting out, hey, we're updating our GMP. We already have a well-established stakeholder group, but the public has a role in this as well. And so should the board pass a resolution tonight, we will post that resolution twice in the Sierra Sun. We will work in March and April to update the 5-year GMP. Late April, we'll finalize that. We're proposing on Wednesday, May 7th, a board action to consider setting a public hearing to adopt an updated GMP. We'll post again in the Sierra Sun, and then on Wednesday, June 4th, we would hold that public hearing for the consideration to adopt the updated GMP. And there is a protest process where if 50+1% of our ratepayers don't want us to update the GMP or don't want us to adopt the updated GMP, we wouldn't be allowed to do that. And then we'll provide a copy of the resolution to DWR. North Star CSD and PCWA have almost an identical schedule, just timed to their governing body meetings. So there's money in the budget for this, and we split it three ways. Again, us, North Star, and PCWA. So the recommendation is to conduct the public hearing for the intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan. And then after the public hearing, adopt Resolution 2025-02 for the notice of intent to update the current Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I'm going to open this up to the public. Do we have any public comment on our intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan? 'Cause we intend to do that. Okay, seeing none, do we have any questions or comments from the board on this intention? Yes.
And thank you, IT, for telling me I wasn't live on my mic. Appreciate that. I have a question about this 50 plus 1% of protest. If, let's just say that came to be, and this, updating this plan is voluntary, what is the consequence if we don't? If that were to happen, is there a consequence of not updating?
There's not a regulatory or a penalty consequence of that. I think the consequence would be not being able to adopt and implement a plan that we feel's important for local watershed stewardship and for, water resource planning. So I think it would depend on why 6,500 and whatever customers were upset about this. And so without knowing that, I don't know where we'd go, but, theoretically, there'd be a theme there, and we would look for a path to do the planning in the resource stewardship that we need to do in a way that the community wants to support.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, in which case, we have action. Do we? Oh, do I have to close it before we adopt the resolution?
Yes.
In which case, I'm now closing the public hearing, and we are coming back into regular time and space. So now we have an action to adopt Resolution 2025. Do I need a motion?
Sure. Go ahead.
It's a
Adopt
time.
Resolution 2025-02 for the notice of intent to update the current Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan.
Do we
I'll
have a-
second that.
Very good. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
The record will reflect that Director Bender is absent.
Fantastic. We will be updating our groundwater management plan. Okay, that brings us to consent, I believe. We have 3 items on consent this evening. Do we have any public comment on consent? Seeing none. Do we have any director comment or questions on consent? Okay.
I do. I would like to pull item 11 off consent just for discussion, broader discussion.
Okay, that's great. We can do that. So should we go ahead and confirm the rest of the consent calendar, or should we discuss item number 11 first?
I think you could finish up the rest of the consent calendar, items 9 and 10, and then move on to a fuller discussion of item 11.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve consent sans number 11?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And the record will reflect Director Bender is absent.
Okay, so item number 11. What questions or concerns do you have, Director?
I just have a question of where it is. I noticed in our board materials for the 2024 plan, it identified where those pipeline projects were. And so I just, for 2025, just a location of where they are and where those projects are.
Yeah, I can call up our engineer, Neil Kaufman. I believe he has some maps printed that he can provide the public and the board. And he can have some detailed comments.
I think that might have been a typo.
It says 2025.
Thank you.
And for the public, I believe the maps were included in the staff report as an attachment, but they might not have gotten through to some. So we'll post that also on our website, but we'll check to make sure that there wasn't a mistake there. But I believe there was an attachment with the staff report.
That
But
might have been my miss as I was reading through the staff report.
Oh, okay.
So that might have been my miss, but this is good for everybody to hear, so.
But Neil can give some highlights on what the goal is for this year.
Yes, so the project involves the replacement of about 4,500 feet of main out in the Sierra Meadows neighborhood. We're going to be working on the great majority of Star Pine Road, the eastern half of Red Fir Road, and all of Sugar Pine Road.
And is that increasing pipe size? Is that replacing damaged pipe?
So this particular pipe segments are mainly driven by maintenance issues. These pipes are in pretty poor condition. We've been out there on numerous occasions to perform repairs. And so we do have the fact that we're out there repairing it on numerous occasions is an indication. Lost water, leakage, conservation is way of life, trying to cut down on our non-revenue water. So that's the main purpose of what we're out here doing. The pipes will be upsized slightly from 6-inch to 8-inch on a couple of the streets, and that just fits with our current construction standard with a minimum main size of 8-inch on any streets where we do have fire hydrants.
That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Tony, did you have something to say? You had a look.
No, I just for the public's benefit, just want to point out that we're approaching $3 million a mile for a mile of water main. So prices keep going up, and the efficiency of water main replacements and the cost of water main replacements continues to be a challenge. So. We still have a lot of work to do. I know staff's been doing a great job. But it's crazy because back when we started this business, it was $100, $200 a foot. Now it's close to 600, so.
Yeah, it is indeed a challenge, one we can't afford to shirk nonetheless, so.
No, absolutely.
It's,
And it's unfortunate, but those are the costs, materials, labor, all the way down to equipment. These
Yeah.
contractors have to procure to meet air board standards nowadays. It all adds up. While it's a concern, we have to trudge forward. We have to do these water main replacements. We have to upsize lines to meet our own minimum standards or whatever requirements we have in those certain areas. And unfortunately, those costs have to be borne by the customers.
So there's no time like the present for getting it done.
I think it was said earlier tonight, everything we defer gets just more expensive.
Just
so.
gets more expensive, exactly. Anyhow, thank you very much. Thank you both for your comments and your questions.
I've got a quick question.
Please.
So Neil, is a 10% contingency normal, and do you typically run that 10% contingency?
The 10% is typical of our construction contracts. For the most part, over the years, we've been relatively on target with minimal change orders. The one variable that we normally run into has to deal with pavement restoration. And the bid prices that we have here are based on replacing 4 inches of asphalt. We believe, for the most part, that's what we have out there. However, we do run into streets where the asphalt is thicker. Last year, in summer of 2024, we were dealing with Northwoods Boulevard, and the pavement section on Northwoods is thicker. And the permit we have from the town basically requires that we match the existing thickness when we go back in and do our pavement patching. So as long as we're at 4 inches, I feel pretty confident we're pretty much going to be pretty close on target with the bid price as presented. But if it does get thicker, that's an additional cost. The one other variable we do run into is rock excavation. We're not the world's greatest experts at being able to look down through the pavement and see what's down there 5 feet down. So we do have a allowance in the contract for rock excavation. A lot of times we're under that. Every once in a while, we do run into a street in a location where it's a lot rockier than we had originally guessed. And so we sometimes do end up with some additional costs there.
And so when you put out the contract, do you get specs for 6 inches or 4 inches and actual cost, or that just comes after the fact?
So we have a unit price for the installation of 8-inch pipe. We have a unit price for the installation of a 2-inch service lateral. We have a whole number of unit prices that are totaled up to arrive at the total amount here of just under 2 million. And for the most part, you know, when we pay the contractor, we will go out and do the actual measurements. So just as an example, let's say that the Star Pine Road segment, we have a bid quantity of 1,525 feet. We will go, and then he puts a unit price on that bid quantity. We'll go out and measure the actual footage that was installed. So if it was 1,540, we'll pay him for the extra 15 feet. If it's 1,500, then we won't pay him for the 25 feet that didn't get installed.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all, board members, for your questions and comments. I think it's always helpful to deepen all of our understanding of how this all works together. Do we have a motion to approve item number 11, independent of the rest of the consent calendar?
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Can we get?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there any public comment on, specifically on item number 11 of the consent calendar? Thank you. Seeing none. Back to, have we got a motion? We have a motion. We have a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And Director Bender is absent for the record.
Very good. Thank you. On to action item, our one action item this evening, number 12, is consideration for approval of an updated memorandum of understanding with Plumas Sierra Telecommunications for community broadband projects. Very exciting to see this action item on our agenda tonight. Brian.
We are as well. So as President Finn pointed out, this is a consideration for an updated MOU between the district and Plumas Sierra Telecommunication. Start off with a little bit of background. We've had presentations in the past a little bit through our strategic plan development and a lot of workshops with the board and the community on some of the key initiatives that we adopted in 2021 and then updated in 2023 and 24. So give a little background here. One of the district's long-term capital improvement projects has been to build a reliable backbone network of fiber communication between our water and electric facilities. And this is really intended to serve as infrastructure that maintains reliable, high-speed communication between our water infrastructure, our electric infrastructure, and our operations center here at the district. We've referred to this project in our budgets and in our kind of our workshops as the SCADA reliability project. And so we have a new directive within the staff to not use acronyms without explaining what those are for both the public and our new board members and some of our new staff.
We appreciate this very much.
So we have some very modest, I don't want to call it punishment, but definitely incentives to make sure we define acronyms in a timely manner. So in alignment with that, SCADA, for anyone who might be new to that term, is Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. And what SCADA systems do for utilities like ours is it offers the ability to communicate in real time, high speed, but also with lots of data. And it helps our teams operate water and electric facilities with a series of developed automated controls. And so we're a 24/7, 365 service. We don't get to turn the system off, close up the shop doors, and go home for the evening. The system's running 24 hours every day of the year. And so the way we manage that, in the old days, we'd have to have night shifts and a lot of folks on call that had to respond to alarms and things of that nature. What we've done over the years, the technology's automated this to where we can set automated programs and then have oversight, the supervisory component of it, from remote locations or remote terminal units here at the district. In tandem with our SCADA projects, we've also had this reliability project, which was, like I said, focused on the fiber network that allowed that high-speed connection, kind of that immediate connection between our local SCADA programming automated system and the functions out in the field. One of the residual benefits of that SCADA reliability project is that we've installed over the last 10 years about 60 miles worth of trunk line fiber network through our community, our service territory. As I mentioned before, it was focused on connectivity between our facilities, but we have facilities throughout our service territory, and so we start to build a network there that not only has value to the district, but perhaps value to our community that we serve. And so the final project kind of projections is somewhere around 90 miles of network infrastructure throughout our service territory that the district would build and own for its purposes. But there's additional bandwidth on that network. And so we had some great workshops over the last couple of years to understand how we could leverage that additional bandwidth, that extra bandwidth for community benefit. In 2021, during the development of our updated strategic plan, the board identified one of its key strategic initiative was to explore the opportunity for community broadband. We, early on in this process, contracted out with a professional consulting firm known as Uptown Services to conduct a preliminary kind of high-level review and assessment of the project and its potential viability here in our community. The work they did included some services assessments and some customer surveys. From that preliminary assessment that Uptown conducted, there's a couple of key things we learned. They conducted a high-level local customer satisfaction market analysis just to understand I think this initiative through our board's engagement with the community was really kind of predicated on the fact that there was some dissatisfaction for various reasons across our community with various providers in our community on either the speed and availability of high-speed broadband or high-speed internet, or just purely the access to the service. We also did some comparative analysis on what it looks like for a successful community broadband project. There are other communities across the nation and on the West Coast here that have successfully achieved this, but through different strategies, whether it be wireless endpoints, kind of using a wireless local kind of service at their community hubs, or actual last mile physical construction. And we also had the Uptown conduct a really high level kind of engineering estimate or a cost estimate, what it would take to build out our system to have a viable high-speed internet network available to everyone in our community. The results were, first off, that the cost to build that system out would be substantial. And there was some really high-level estimates in the hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on the infrastructure, the technology that was used, and some of the challenges in different sections of our community. The different subdivisions had different challenges. We also engaged in some community outreach, some pretty comprehensive community outreach. The board participated in community circles to gather feedback and understand what the needs of the community were and what their sort of tolerance or availability to carry the burden of that financial investment for a new network. What we found out and what was revealed was that the community had a strong desire for an improved and more reliable community broadband service, but only if it didn't come at substantial cost and financial burden to our ratepayers. So the Community Broadband Initiative was initially primarily focused on coordinated efforts to pursue opportunities where the district could facilitate a larger community-wide broadband project, with the caveat that it could not have material impact to the water or electric utilities budgets or impact to rates, really having those firewalls that the broadband project was a standalone, independently funded project and didn't require any impact on electric and water utility rates. And so with that in consideration and the feedback we got from the community in 2023, the board refined the original strategic initiative to focus more on partnerships and collaboration. There was a lot of discussion on, is there money out there through grants or other support programs? We as a small utility that doesn't have a very well-defined or large disadvantaged community, the California Public Utility Commission had identified an underserved community or limited access in some cases, but not necessarily a disadvantaged community. And so the opportunity for funding streams really require partnerships and collaboration. And so the board gave staff an initiative to pursue ways in which we could achieve incremental progress throughout our community in partnership with other agencies, both public and private. The district has maintained what I would characterize as a very strong relationship between Pluma Sierra Telecommunications. It's a kind of an arm of Pluma Sierra Electric. The team up there, we have a great relationship with them. We kind of share some very similar challenges in terms of geography and resources and some of the kind of regulatory challenges, similar sized utilities. There's some difference there that they're based on a kind of a federal co-op structure, and we're a California special district, but there's a lot of opportunities for us to kind of share resources and experiences there. And so we've had an MOU in place for several years. I think it's the better part of the last 15 years, 12 to 15 years, where the district and PST, Pluma Sierra Telecommunications, are able to leverage the excess bandwidth on our fiber network, where PST provides middle and last mile infrastructure to customers in our service territory that have the opportunity or the ability to finance or fund that construction, that investment, and want to subscribe to service with Pluma Sierra. And so those are important distinctions there, that Pluma Sierra's model is either the customer needs to have access or has the ability to fund that last or middle mile to connect to our network and provide internet to their home or business, or Pluma Sierra needs to find access to grant monies for which that area may qualify. And so we've had that MOU in place for a while. It was very generic, high-level MOU that has served its purpose up until what I'm about to update you with here in a few minutes. And so in exchange for that MOU, part of what the district gained from that is access to Pluma Sierra's internet service. So we have the fiber network and we have the network built out to all of our systems and infrastructure, but at our hubs, we would either have to subscribe to a local provider or find our own service, or we had the opportunity through this MOU to kind of piggyback on the service that Pluma Sierra has contracted with AT&T. So we have high-speed, reliable internet to our core business functions here at the district due to this relationship. There's some other advantages there where their network is backed up with backup generators. So in power outages, you'll often see a lot of lights out and things like that, and we still have internet and lights here so that we can continue to restore power in an efficient manner. So what's new information? Well, I think the team at Pluma Sierra has really exercised their kind of technique and skill set in terms of applying for and pursuing grant funds. They have a lot, like I said, they're as a federal co-op, they have a lot of opportunities and have really looked and have been creative in trying to find additional opportunities where they could partner. And so in 2024, PST was able to apply for a grant fund through California's Last Mile Federal Funding Account. It's known as the FFA. And the program's part of a larger $6 billion California Broadband for All initiative. And so through that partnership, the Truckee Downer PUD, the district, kind of co-signed on that application as a willing partner, not as the project owner or the financial steward of that project, but as a partner to help enable through the access to our network. And so through that partnership, PST was very successful. This is a pretty monumental success for them. They were awarded access to about $67 million in grant funding for the counties they serve. It includes about 6,600 underserved customers through Sierra, Plumas, and Nevada counties. And approximately 8 million of that has been earmarked for projects that Pluma Sierra identified in our service territory. So it's in terms of the board's initiative to pursue collaborative success, incremental success. I think this is a shining example of a huge win here that we can continue to model in the future. Wanted to give just an inventory of where the projects are that Pluma Sierra was able to include and have awarded through this grant. You see here, this is the senior center just across the road from the rodeo, the Rec and Park Rodeo. And then you can kind of see the orange is the outline of where this project will be able to build new fiber loop, accessing that green line where we have existing fiber. This is the mobile home park across from the Ponderosa Golf Course off Brockway. Again, another underserved community in terms of the technology and speed and ability to construct that middle mile and last mile. This was a combination of new overhead and underground fiber to reach these customers. We also have the Boulders condo complex over behind Save Mart, kind of down the road on Deerfield. Again, the ability to access some existing underground fiber over by the college that the district uses for their services. This is an underground project that offers access to that community. This is also, I believe, where some of our public partners have public employee housing projects. I think the hospital has some resources in that condo complex, and I believe others are pursuing those. So this is a combination where it's underserved community, but also some of our public employees may have an opportunity to benefit from this. Here we have the mobile home park across from the Steve Randall Rec and Park Center. The over off Pioneer, kind of between Pioneer and the rec center over there, there's another mobile home park. Mobile home parks and tend to have limited access because they're not included during their initial construction. And so this is an opportunity for Pluma Sierra to extend that service from our network. And then finally, this one seems a little odd, but I'll give it a little explanation there. This is some of those new attached, I would say they're more affordable. They're not necessarily considered affordable homes under the California standards, or maybe they are under California standards, but they're a new development in the old Greenwood section that was identified as an underserved community in terms of access to that resource. And so this is actually the opportunity to leverage some work that's already been done. So that community installed, in partnership with the Truckee Downer PUD, underground conduit for future fiber or other communications during the original construction. And so this community already has underground, but there's an opportunity to give, through that build-out project, some more access there. So the updated MOU that was provided in the board packet is in its substantially completed form. It's not necessarily a draft, but it's substantially completed. So there's a need for an updated MOU to ensure that Pluma Sierra and the Truckee Downer PUD can better define the relationship for future fiber projects and this particular grant award so that they're in compliance and meet all their criteria and requirements for the grant award, and that the district has an opportunity to have some oversight in how this construction is completed. Staff, with the assistance of General Counsel and PST, have developed a substantially completed MOU that we are all on board with. I believe Pluma Sierra is doing their final review with legal and present to their board shortly after ours. So we both arrived to an agreement with the terms, with the contingency that there may be some minor, non-substantial edits that are required. These might be related to more definitive descriptions of the project areas, more definitive descriptions of kind of the line of demarcation of who owns what infrastructure, and better, more clearly defining that. But in general, the district's in agreement with the terms. The recommendation this evening, well, let me talk about the fiscal impact first. As we mentioned, this is a grant-funded project. There's no material fiscal impact associated with this item. However, the district will contribute to this project in the form of some minor oversight, engineering, project oversight, project engineering and management, and some inspections out in the field, either through staff or already secured service contracts we have with engineering firms or construction firms. The district will establish a billable work order so that we track that work or materials, whatever it might be, and that cost is recovered either through the grant funding disbursements or Pluma Sierra itself. So the goal here and the intent of the MOU is that it remain cost neutral to the district, so it's not impacting electric or water budget, but there's an opportunity for us to facilitate or enable this project. So the recommendation this evening is to authorize the general manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with Pluma Sierra Telecommunications for community broadband projects in substantially the form presented, with any non-substantial changes recommended and approved by the district council. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Brian, for presenting that background and new information for us. Do we have any public comment on this action item this evening? Okay, seeing none. Back to board deliberations, questions, and comments. Anybody like to get the ball rolling?
I think it's great. Let's go for it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Turn in the corner.
So if individual ratepayers wanted to tap into broadband, do they call Pluma Sierra Telecom, or how would they initiate their own initiative? I guess how would they start to get broadband into their home?
Absolutely.
Is that an option?
They can contact us, staff here, but we would direct them to Pluma Sierra. They are the service provider, and they could coordinate that project estimation and contract and service agreement with them. I can tell you, in many cases, particularly where customers contact us or reach out to Pluma Sierra, if that customer's property or home isn't in immediate proximity to our existing trunk line fiber, there's some significant costs in terms of construction to build out fiber network. Includes, underground excavations, conduits, or we can work with our engineering team to put it overhead to some extent. Where it works most effectively is where you have multiple homeowners or multiple properties who collectively want to join Pluma Sierra's service and then share that cost, kind of economies of scale there. So to answer your question, they would need to contact Pluma Sierra. We can help them with that. But part of what as we evolve this MOU is for Pluma Sierra to have more of a communications and engagement with our community so they understand how to do that.
That was my follow-up, is how widely is that known that individuals can come and ask the PUD and then the PUD will route them to the right? I just wonder how well ratepayers know that.
It's something that needs to be improved, and we need to coordinate that through Pluma Sierra. One of the things we have to be cognizant of and make sure that we maintain that balance is the PUD is not the service provider on this, and we need to maintain those kind of firewalls. We don't have latent power, so to speak, to provide that service, and so we need to make sure that that service part of it is something that's operated and owned by Pluma Sierra. So we're working with them. They have a very talented team. They're, as a rural co-op, that's limited in size, the team. So where we can help with project management on this and recovery of funds, we're working with them. I think we need to work with them on their kind of enhanced level of advertisement on this program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, just a question. I mean, I see we're getting some value for the use of our fiber network in the form of internet service for this building. And assuming if everything's connected via fiber, I mean, that means all of our facilities that are connected to fiber have access to the internet?
Yes.
Okay. I guess at some point, where do we begin to look at what the value is that we're receiving versus what we're, providing as far as infrastructure? And not to get overly complicated, but, at some point, we put in our investment in this infrastructure, and when another entity begins to, bring in more profit, where do we draw the line on saying, where do we draw the line on saying at some point, this infrastructure, is giving value to somebody else and not us?
Very tracking on my question. That was somewhat defined in this MOU, was that if there's greater uptake in the Truckee community, that puts us beyond cost neutrality. If more monies are coming in, if it's profitable, then those profits are shared amongst Pluma Sierra and the PUD.
Okay.
I don't know if it got into specifics of ratios of that cost sharing, but my understanding was that has potential to exist, not that it is our goal necessarily. And I did have a question about if that ever comes to fruition, where would those monies go in the PUD? Like, where would we put that? It's not water and it's not power.
No, so that's great questions. And the intent of the previous MOU, while it was very high level and kind of MOU light, because it was early on, we were kind of trying to figure things out, 10 or 15 years ago. As this evolves and becomes more, executable and implemented, both of your questions are right on point. The intention was that at some point, when PST starts to actually generate revenue beyond their cost, and some of these contracts, if one or two contracts don't necessarily make a profitable service for that, and so their board of directors, as a federal co-op, has given their initiative to spread broadband to as far-reaching as they possibly can in terms of their service territory and influence. Once their connections and contracts on our backbone start to become revenue generators on the positive side of the ledger, the agreement was we would sit down and, with a finance committee, with the two agencies, evaluate the returns on it, and then collect on the district side to repay the initial investment for that portion of that trunk fiber line. And that's done through a combination of projects. It's been, at one point in time, funded by the electric utility for connection to their resources and facilities, and at some point funded by the water utility for connections to their facilities. So it's a mixed kind of bag there. But the intent has always been, once that becomes a revenue generating on the positive side, that the district would receive return on that investment for this community. So and we also are reserving a percentage of capacity of that fiber network. If things continue to grow, that the district reserves a certain capacity in that network for our own uses. But so, I think there's an opportunity also for other partnerships beyond Pluma Sierra. They haven't necessarily penciled out in the past, but as, more funding becomes available through these grant programs, and then once that service is established, we start getting on the positive side of the ledger here and replacing the funding that paid for that infrastructure.
Okay, so we would be looking back at historical
Yep.
outpays money that we spent to put the fiber in, and it would go to whichever water or electric commensurately. Okay, I think I understand. Got it. Okay,
Yeah, it's one of the things that we saw in the community broadband research and assessment is, customer account density is really important for something to be financially viable. And so Plumas has kind of reached out beyond their means a little bit to ensure that we continue to expand this. And these type of projects will help, because one of the kind of residual benefits is also what we call the pass-by opportunity. As you start to lay down underground fiber to a mobile home complex or a condo complex, oftentimes you have to pass by down the street with that resource. You've expanded and extended it that more people can join for less cost.
it's got potential. A little bit at a time. Do we have any more questions or comments from the board? No? Okay, seeing none. I don't have any either. I am excited, a little bit at a time. This is what we can do. I'm happy to see it happening. Do we have a motion?
Did you ask for public comment?
I
Sorry.
did.
Okay.
I did, before we started chatting.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And Director Bender is absent for the record.
Okay, great. Which brings us to item number 13, which is a workshop for our 2024 Communications and Outreach Review and the 2025 Public Information Department Plan. So we get to hear from Alex this evening on this one. Awesome.
And President Finn, if
Oh,
I
and
could.
Stephen, you're over here too.
We're going to tag team a little bit. You're going to get mostly Alex because this is her area of expertise. But I thought I'd give a brief introduction. So Stephen Poncelet, Public Information and Strategic Affairs, and Alex Bihalski, our Communications Specialist. Throughout our community engagement on our programs, through our customers, in our strategic planning efforts with our community circles, and just about everything we do, there's been a very consistent theme of people want more information, they want education, and they want to understand why. Why does the electric utility do this? Why did the water utility do that? And we take that very seriously, and obviously we serve the needs of our customer. It's a two-way relationship. And so this district, this board, previous boards, has invested in communications capacity. And we brought in Alex a few years ago, a great addition to the team. We've really spent a lot of time improving our internal and external communications. And again, staff wants to know why, the community wants to know why, the board wants to know why. So we're making a big effort to always improve that. And we tailor what we do every year based on what's topical, what's timely, what's critical. And then certain things come back every year because it's the nature of our business. And so a few years ago, we created a Public Information Department plan that was attached to the staff report, and it really lays out who we are, what we do, what channels we use, what our themes are, what our campaigns are, and how we go about doing that. And so it's a plan, and so we update it every year. tonight, we're going to recap 2024, and then, we're charging forward into 2025. We have an updated plan with mostly updated kind of strategic themes and campaigns. And so with that, I'm going to pass it to Alex, and we're here to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board. I'm Alex Bihalski. I'm the communications specialist here. And as Stephen just said, we're going to do a little bit of a recap of 2024 and looking forward into 2025, what you'll be expecting from us this coming year. Oh, are we good now? Can you hear me now? So I'm going to start off with a quick review of what a campaign is. This is the third year we're doing this, so I'm not going to dive too deep, but we do obviously have 2 new board members, and I want to make sure you guys have the proper background. So as Stephen said, when we determine our campaigns at the beginning of the year, basically what we're going to be communicating, we're taking a look at what's coming up in the coming year, what's going to affect our customers the most, and what they need to know, and then we're determining our priorities from there. So when we look at what we want in a campaign, it's a marketing plan. It is deliberate. It is actionable. It's a high priority of the district. It needs to be relevant to the community. It needs to have a clear takeaway or goal. We want to use language that the general public can understand. We say something here, we want it to be repetitive but not redundant. And what that means is that you're not going to catch every single person every single time you're communicating about the same topic, but you don't want to be saying the same things over again. So how can we continue to get similar messaging across, not lose people, keep them engaged, but really drive home what we're trying to say? And then campaigns can have different objectives. Sometimes it's just awareness. We want you to be aware of something that's going on in the community or with our utility. Sometimes it's education. We want you to have a deeper understanding of that topic, probably because it has to do with your life and the community that you live in. And sometimes there's a call to action. That's sign up for this program, enroll in this rebate, things like that. We want you to take an actual action from what we're sharing. So as a refresher, here are the 2024 campaigns. I am going to go through each of these, so don't worry, this is going to move quick, but just to throw them up on the screen so we can see. So starting off with your money at work, this is a lot of what we post. This is the bread and butter. This is the stuff everybody likes to see, the really cool pictures of linemen on poles and our water team fixing pipelines, things like that. But beyond it just being kind of cool and eye-catching, it really goes pretty far to showing the community what we do for them and the value that we have, what value that we provide to our community and how we make their lives better, and really showing them that journey versus just telling them. So I included a couple pictures of some of the projects that we've featured this year. The Joe Aguirre pump station and pipeline was obviously a big one for us. A couple pictures here. We also posted a time lapse of the construction of that pump station. And if you haven't seen it, you can go to our social media channels and watch that. It's pretty cool. These are kind of the 3 major buckets I would say our money at work communications fall into: vegetation management, electric projects, and water projects. That's, the impressive stuff that people like to see. We have a couple pictures here from some system hardening work in Olympic Heights and behind the hospital this summer. Some overnight pole replacements, the West River Streetscape undergrounding work that was done, some pipeline repairs, tank replacements, pipeline replacements, a lot of work done this year by our team. So our next campaign this past year was called Living the Mountain Lifestyle. So we are up against a lot of challenges, obviously, in our community that maybe other areas don't need to worry about. You've got harsh winters, wildfire danger, things like that. So we want to make sure that our customers have the information that they need to navigate the challenges that we see in this community, specifically having to deal with electric and water. We have a landing page on our website that is dedicated to winter tips for things like avoiding burst pipes, conserving heat, and even what to do when the snow piles up so high on the side of the road that it buries the power lines. That's a uniquely Truckee problem that we have sometimes here. Maybe not this year, but the winter is young. So we put out these kind of PSA style communications to share some helpful information, give our community some how-tos on what to do if they're in these situations. And then we also, we have the ones we know we're going to talk about every single year, but we also kind of try to keep an ear to the ground. And if there is something that our customer service team is getting a lot of calls about, we can go ahead and look into that, create an FAQ, and add that to the website, because we want to make sure that we're, still listening for new things that may be coming up with our customers. Electrification and rebates was also one of our campaigns this past year. This is our Help Us Help You campaign. We have a lot of great programs here, and we really want people to take advantage of them. That's why we're here. We're here to help our community. We want to help you save money if you can be energy and water efficient. And we had a couple of new events this year. We had existing events. We have a picture up there, our Carbon Bingo winner. That's a great community engagement program we run every year. The Conservation Department rolled out a new induction cooking workshop, which was a lot of fun, got really great response. And at all of those events, we create collateral to share information about those programs. So the 2 panels there, that's our new rack card, it's called. One of those, you kind of see it on reception desks and things when you walk in. And that has all the information about our efficiency rebates and our weatherization rebates. And then we created those not only so that we could give them out, but the Town of Truckee Building Department actually has those on their desk also. So we're able to work with our partners to expand our reach on awareness of those kind of programs. Wildfire season is, and unfortunately will always be, one of our campaigns here. This is obviously a major issue in our community, and it's really 2-pronged for what we're talking about here. On one hand, we need our customers to understand PSOM and emergency de-energization programs and know how to be prepared for instances like that. But beyond that kind of more take action, be prepared messaging, we have invested very heavily in wildfire safety and wildfire mitigation here at the district, and we want people to know about that. We want them to know what we're doing to keep them safe. So you'll see at the top there, that's a before and after of one of our vegetation management programs this fall. The one on the bottom right there, that was a pretty cool tree removal where that man got hooked to a giant crane and he got flown up to the top of the tree, and then he climbed down, cut a bunch of branches off, wrapped the rope around the trunk of the tree, and then it got flown out from this person's backyard. So just very cool stuff like that that's happening that our team is doing, and it's really indicative of the commitment that we have to safety and service reliability in our community. Working for TDPUD. So the advantage of being served by a public utility is that we are not a faceless corporation, right? We're all your neighbors here in Truckee. And we like to drive that point home by showcasing some of the faces we have here at the district. We do that with some spotlight profiles, which are about different people we have working here, what they do for work, so people can get an idea of the kind of different roles other than just maybe what they see out in the field. But we also like to kind of share the lighter side of life here. We have a really great team, and we do a lot of fun stuff. So we like to kind of show how we're a part of the community and what we do here and what's going on inside the building. Energy sources and clean energy was a campaign this year. So it's a pretty complicated topic, and as we are the energy experts in this community, we want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that the community has the proper information when learning about these topics, when speaking about these topics, and when considering how they affect our community. an accurate understanding of the clean energy landscape, the challenges that we're going to face down the road. So this year, we really sought to educate on where our energy comes from. It's a lot different than the rest of California, so that's something I think a lot of people don't know. And about our renewable portfolio standard, we wrote an article on our website to try to break down this very complicated topic around clean energy that is helpful for our community to understand. And this naturally linked up with our integrated resource plan campaign. So you all know, last year we adopted our first integrated resource plan, which was a big deal, and we really want our community to know about this. We need them to know that we are a responsible entity and we're planning for the future and really looking ahead and keeping their interests in mind. So we were communicating about the IRP and energy planning, and in tandem, we were able to talk about our time of use rate, which was also new this year, and really educating the community on how the when of using power matters as much as how much you're using it when it comes to procurement. And I think that's a different perspective that a lot of people haven't really thought about a lot, and it's something that we need people to be mindful of, their behavior and demand side going forward. So this year was a little more electric heavy with our communications, and those two topics especially were big ones to break down. So we have two campaigns that will be continuing into 2024, so I'll talk about them a little bit later. They were responsible water usage and our water quality campaign. So real quick, we'll take a look at some of the highlights that the communications team had this year, or last year. So we were able to cultivate some new media relationships as well as expand on some existing relationships. So within our industry, we've really built a great relationship with the American Public Power Association and their communications team. So this year we were featured on their podcast, in their magazine, multiple times in their newsletter and on their website. So that's a great avenue for us to get the word out within the industry about what we're doing. And same with the Northwest Public Power Association. Pretty much all of our press releases get posted on their website and featured in their weekly newsletter. So that's been a great addition to our media outreach. And then locally, we had some great local media interactions this year. This summer, Moonshine Inc. asked us to write an article about how to save energy and save costs when the weather warms up. The Sierra Sun interviewed General Manager Brian Wright about our 2024 accomplishments. And then there was also a climate column that spoke to our electric and conservation departments to get our perspective on the topic they were covering. And then local radio, Truckee Tahoe Radio, KTKE, we've increased the number of interviews and promotional airtime that we get with them, seeing that as an important resource for us. So last year we hosted two pretty exciting tours for government officials and staff. In June, we had Representative Kevin Kiley visit the district. For a tour, we took him to the Donner Lake substation and the Red Mountain tank and talked about some of the issues that we have here in the district that were relevant to him. And we're building a really great relationship with his field staff in California. And then in July, we had the NCPA legislative staff tour. And that was NCPA, the Northern California Power Agency, arranges that and brings a large group of Sacramento and DC legislative staff around to different utilities. And it's a way for them to get a real life look at how the policies that they are dealing with, whether it's the legislation that they're voting on or the regulations that they're working on, how they affect real communities. So we took them out there was a panel at the office first, and then we took them out to an active tree removal, and they got to see what that looks like. And it was in what they call cross-country terrain. It wasn't just off the side of the road. It was kind of into the woods a little bit, so they got the whole story of how something like that gets done, which is a little more complicated than your average tree removal. We've done a lot of work this year, or last year, on strengthening our local partnerships. So we regularly attend some of our local briefing meetings, like Good Morning Truckee and the CCC Nevada County meeting every month. That's a great opportunity for us to continue to be top of mind with our partners in the area. There was the Truckee Public Information Officers Group was revived this year. So that's a great network for us to be a part of. Now we're having biannual meetings, and we're all linked together on a WhatsApp group. And we can, if something comes up, we can communicate with each other very quickly. We can share messaging very quickly. It's a really great asset to have. Scott already talked about tech teams, but that's a great example of local agency collaboration. We're doing a lot of school events. We're in every level of the schools these days. So we have the elementary school, Truckee L comes over and does a field trip with us. Last year, Chad and the other water agencies in town went and did a presentation at Alder Creek Middle School. We go to the career fair with the high school, and then we obviously have tech teens and the new scholarship program. So we've done a lot with youth outreach with the PD. And then we also have a lot of collaborative work we're doing with the town of Truckee and even with Visit Truckee Tahoe, our tourism bureau. Community events and engagement. So this is kind of one of my favorite parts of the job. We have a lot of roles when it comes to these events. We help with planning, with promotion. Like I showed before with those rack cards, we create a lot of collateral so that when people come and speak to us, we can answer their questions, we can give them information to take home, things like that. But this is a really crucial face-to-face interaction with the community, especially someone like me. My job is pretty behind the screen. No one's really going to see me, but this is the way we have that personal touch because we are a public utility in the community. And we've done a lot over the last couple of years, I think, with building an understanding of who we are, what we do. And it's in no short thanks to events like these. And this year we were at the 4th of July parade, Big Truck Day. We had those induction workshops, Truckee Thursday, Truckee Day, the Tahoe Donner Expo. Anywhere we can pop up a tent and a pop tent, we will go. We started in 2024 starting some website updates and improvements. So we kind of kicked off what we're planning on to be a 2-year project to improve our website. At the direction of the board, we've really become focused on customer education. And to do that, we really need to make our website a welcoming place for people who don't have a technical knowledge of the utility industry. So we've done a lot to kind of improve our navigation, create some new pages, some new layouts. We started writing some more articles about different topics that can be parsed out in a little bit more friendly, everyday language versus I think our website was really serving the purpose for a lot of people to just come get tasks done versus a place where they can come learn more information. So that's a little bit of the transition we're looking to do to achieve that customer education goal that the board has set out for us. We continue to grow our social media channels. Despite the resistance of my colleague, Stephen, it is a mainstream channel, a major one at that needs to be treated as such. It's become a really important tool for us, especially in outage communications. We're able to share information very quickly. It's another avenue of that. Like even when you talk to people at events face-to-face, people can message us here if they have questions, and I'll respond to them if I can. So it's just another way for us to reach the community. And fun little stat, in 2024, our social media content overall got 325,000 views, which is pretty cool. These were some of our December posts that you can see up there.
That wasn't Steven trying to figure it out.
Just scrolling back and forth. Oh. I do want to recognize the place I think this was really evident was in that November PSOM event. Because of the reach that we've attained with the social media and because of those relationships that we've grown, we were able to we had a very short amount of time to communicate that information that a PSOM could be coming. And that message spread very quickly, in large part thanks to social media and thanks to our partners seeing our messaging and being able to share it easily, knowing that it was coming and putting it out for their own audiences. And then that drives more people to us, and then they start to follow us and get the information directly from us instead. So that was a great example of how that can be helpful. And then I won't spend a lot of time on this because this is pretty new. It feels very recent because it was. But we did some fun stuff around our year in review communications at the end of the year. End of the year kind of functions as like a deadline for communications, I think. Let's talk about everything we can talk about before the year turns over. And it's a really great way to be able to look back on the year, coalesce all of the things that have happened, and really be able to show the overall impact that you had on the community in the year. So we did this fun infographic thanks to many of our departments here who contributed some of their successes for the year. We posted a lot on social media about some recaps, some stats, all those great photos that I showed before. And then we also were able to turn that into content for the lobby screens. So we're getting those lobby screens back going again, and that was a great way to take the same information and share it across many channels. So now we'll get into what's to come in 2025. So real quick, I'm just going to define a couple of terms that we'll use for some of our newer board members. So as Stephen said, in 2023, we kind of revamped how we looked at our communications and planning and campaigns and things like that. And we're even tweaking it a little bit more this year. So the thing that is remaining the same is our themes. So that you'll see them on the next page, but that really sets the stage for who we are. That's our characteristics. Those are our guiding principles. Everything we talk about is always going to relate back to one of those, but they're very general statements about who we are as an organization. Previously, we had split our campaigns into evergreen campaigns and timely campaigns. And what that means is evergreen campaigns means that they're going to be relevant not at any time of year, but year over year. Those are the same things you're going to be talking about. Like we said, we're never going to stop talking about wildfire, about your money at work, about our rebates, things like that. And then you had the ones that were more focused on direct actions that were happening that year. There was a specific catalyst and a reason why we were talking about that topic in 2024. So we've kind of renamed those a little bit. And the reason for that is that when I'm looking at this and I'm organizing what we're going to do, I see a campaign as being something that has a little bit more direction, it's a little bit more focused, has some goals. And with those evergreen topics, I think we got to a point where we didn't really need that level of scrutiny over it. We know it's coming. We have kind of all the stuff in place to put out. Not that we're not updating it, but it is pretty settled at this point. So rather than, feel like those held the same weight, we're calling those featured topics now. So that's the stuff that we're never going to stop talking about. You're going to see it all the time. Not to say that it won't be new content, but you can always expect that from us. And then this year, we'll have 4 strategic campaigns. So by narrowing that down, that really gives us the opportunity to say, these are our top priorities for this year. This is what we want the community to learn this year, to take away from what we're sharing with them. So just as a refresher, these are our themes. I'll let you read them. If you can't read them, tell me and I'll read them for you. But as you can see, these are very general statements, but they do really speak to who we are and what we do as an organization. And then we have those featured topics. So for 2025, again, we'll be talking about your money at work, the mountain lifestyle, conservation and electrification, wildfire season, working for the PUD, our board strategic initiatives, and the value of public power and water. So what we'll be getting into more strategically in 2025, a lot of water this year. Last year was a little bit more electric. We had that time of use launch. We had the IRP adoption. This year we have a lot of water to talk about in 2025. So responsible water usage, that's going to be talking to our customers about their behavior as it pertains to the new water conservation regulations that are coming. And that's going to be kind of an early spring to early fall timeline for that. Makes sense for when you need to be conserving water and irrigation and things like that. Water rates and service, skipping a little, but that's our new water rate process that's coming up. That's obviously a big undertaking. And as part of that, we really want our community to understand the value of what we bring for them. I think anytime that rates are under discussion, you want to make sure people know what you do for them and what that money is spent on. And that'll be kind of summer, fall timing. Water quality and drinking our tap. That's going to be a partnership with the town of Truckee, with Keep Truckee Green. We've done a lot of work together on kind of branding, we'll call it, our water here in Truckee, and we have some fun things planned. We'll kind of be talking about it from two different perspectives, but we'll probably be focusing most on water quality, what makes groundwater so special, the resource that we have here, and why you should want to drink it, and how fabulous it is. And then lastly, engage with TDPUD. So as I said before, we've kicked off this kind of 2-year website revamp. And part of that, we kind of got thinking on how we want people to know how to engage with us, right? Not just when something comes up and, something, they have a water leak and then they have to log into their account for the first time in 3 years. We want them to be coming back to us, be engaging with us, have our website act as that kind of education hub where they can learn new things. So that's kind of going to be the crux of that campaign. We'll hopefully be unveiling some website refresh at some point in the year, as well as we're working on a customer newsletter, an email newsletter. We know that our customers like to be communicated with via email. Our emails look a little MS-DOS-like, so we're building something that hopefully will make people want to click through to our website. And kind of with those changes, the last thing I'll say is we're also going to incorporate something new this year that came about really organically, but we're going to be adopting kind of a motto for the PUD. And that motto, Stephen said it before, he slipped it in there, is charging forward. So how that came to be was we had a working group for the EV Silverados to put the design on those when we wrapped those. We had a little working group to discuss what we wanted on those. And that phrase came out of that group. And we kind of kept hearing it, and we were like, that's pretty cool. And when you think about it, I think it does a really good job at encapsulating who we are as an organization. We are problem solvers, we're innovators, we get things done, we're constantly in motion, and that's what we think this charging forward will mean. So nothing major, but we're gonna kind of slip that in and make that part of our identity going forward. And that's it for me.
All right, Alex, I'll have you do the fiscal impact and
Sure.
recommendation, please.
The costs for the district's Public Information and Strategic Affairs Department are included in the approved board FY25 budget. There's no direct fiscal impact associated with this informational workshop item. And the recommendation is to receive this informational workshop and provide input and direction to staff.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex. Do we have any public comment or questions or response to our Public Information Department plan. Mr. Dewey,
Yes, let's see. Am I on?
I think you
I
are.
can't tell. It's a red light?
Red light's on, yes.
Okay. Well, that was a fantastic presentation, Alex.
Thank you.
And I did want to, welcome the 2 new board members. I think I'm really happy you guys are on the board. And when I was campaigning for the positions that you got, I did get some feedback that I thought I would share here about communications. Now, I think you've done a fantastic job in communicating, especially over the last few years. Boy, the content was great, and your slide transitions, wow. I mean, that was really enjoy to watch.
Thank you.
And see where it was going. So that's fantastic. So back to some comments. Fire hydrants. I notice naturally most people think the fire hydrants are the responsibility of the fire protection district. So I think what you've done last year is great, and I would encourage you, to keep doing that, because obviously they aren't. I don't have any answers here. These are just comments, or I don't have any real suggestions what you should do. They're just comments. The all-electric, like the cooking class you held, one set of feedback is that the PUD is trying to get us to go all electric, and we don't want to do that, So I would just be careful in when you do these communications about things like that cooking, that it doesn't come across that we're trying to get everybody to, move to a different, power source. Another thing I came across was a lot of people are really confused about their bills, and this is primarily for the people that are both electric and water customers. They don't get a paper bill anymore, right? So they don't really see what the breakdown is. And what happens is they get really confused, I think, on it. I mean, my observation is that people that are both on electric and water see that bill and think it's all electric. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I don't know. There seems to be, need to make people understand it's both. I don't have a solution. It's just a comment that it makes the bill look bigger than it is, and people don't realize what a fantastic rate structure we have. Once in a while, something comes out, someone puts something out about Liberty, PG&E versus, TDPUD, and, we look fantastic, which is great. So, that's good. Comment on water quality, maybe this is more of a personal comment, is that I unfortunately have black faucets and drains in my home, and I am really can't figure out how to get all that white stuff, which I assume is coming from the wells, off of my faucets, et cetera. So I don't know, I'm just thinking about that when you mentioned water quality. And then I love this charging forward idea, but it brings to mind that I bet you Truckee has the highest EV charger per capita rate in the world. It would really be nice if there was any way to figure out what that was. I don't know if it's a great communications point, but I find it really, really interesting. But anyway, thank you.
Right on. Thank you very much. I'm sure that we're all noting and thinking about your comments, so I appreciate that. And we very much appreciate the public coming and sharing with us. It's vital, I would say. Wish we had it more. Bringing it back to the board then, do we have any board comments, questions, clarifications?
So we get notices for like PSOM or power outages, things like that through email, but I haven't noticed things on email like you're doing Truckee Day or come see us or that. Is there a reason why email is not used to promote the various, initiatives, programs. I think the social media is great. All the things you're doing are great. But a lot of people don't access those types of things, but they do access email these days.
Yeah, that is definitely a goal. Honestly, it's a bandwidth issue because I'm the person who puts out all the different channels, and sometimes some channels fall off for certain events. You can only do so much, but it's definitely a priority of ours. That's why we mentioned it. And thank you for that feedback. We really would like to be utilizing email more because, as you said, I think that is a very primary mode of
Yeah,
communication
I mean,
for a
it
lot
can
of
just
people.
be a simple note, look at our website if you want to find out about energy rebates, how you can get a refrigerator and get those types of things. I don't think it has to be the full Monty, but it could direct people because I think a lot of people don't know how to access what, the PUD is doing because it's not in their normal day operation. People in the know, sure, they find out about all those things, but anyway, something to think about, utilizing email to a greater access in some point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turn the other side.
I think I said this last time, but I mean, we are so far away from where we were 5 years ago, 4 years ago, as far as our level of just aggressiveness in changing the way we communicate with our customers. And so, Stephen started that. Alex has really kind of put her foot on the gas and made some huge strides. So I just want to recognize the staff involved and the district as well, all staff, district staff on, because it's not just a couple people, it's also everyone sort of getting the buy-in to make this a priority. So I think it's great. Director Randall, great comment. Totally agree that we could probably provide a little more what's going on, through the emails. But I think it's great. I think we're really starting to leverage technology. We're really starting to leverage the communication paths that our customers, our wide variety and demographics types of customers use. So really proud of that. Really proud of, every time I get a text about a power outage and ETA or, just reestablishing service. I mean, all that goes a long ways for people. So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to second Barney's kudos for the presentation, the clarity, the creativity, easily digestible, great. So congratulations on that, that's great. Two things, back to the fire hydrants. Who paints those? Some are beautiful red, and some are flaky yellow, faded. So who do our ratepayers go to say, spruce up my fire hydrant?
So our water crew, our water staff, they have a fire hydrant maintenance plan, and it's kind of in stages. There's far too many fire hydrants in our community to take on an annual or even a biannual basis. So they have a kind of a rotating plan to do maintenance. They do a couple things. They do inspections, make sure the fire hydrant operates, and then paint and repair any damages. And so what happens to a lot of fire hydrants out there through snow removal, those hydrants get hit or damaged during the winter months, and our crew go back out and make sure that those repairs are made. And then you'll see certain neighborhoods get hit on a certain year. And so several years back, we got a lot of compliments because our crews went through and painted every hydrant in Glenshire, made sure it operated, and they'll pick a section in Tahoe Donner. So it's the water crew. In the years past, it was kind of a partnered effort between the fire district and the utility, but the fire district, was essentially just touching on the kind of the core trunk line roads and not all of the hydrants out there. And so we took on that responsibility about 7 or 8 years ago. We still work in partnership with them to make sure they let us know when something needs attention, but our water crews take care of that.
So an individual ratepayer could contact the PUD, and if it's within the schedule of that replacement reserve item or whatever it is, or it might be expedited?
Yeah, if it's something
Okay.
particularly, where there's a risk or a potential that hydrant doesn't work, that would be our priority. We all want them to look really great, but we really, more importantly, want them to work really great. And so if there's something that's of concern, contacting our water staff would be the way to go.
Okay.
We're also, interested in, well, I want to just also thank the community at large, because there's a lot of community members that dig out and excavate their hydrants in the winter and make sure to, thank you.
One of them, yeah.
And so we couldn't possibly achieve that with the staff we have here at the district or the fire department combined. We'd be focusing all of our time on digging out hydrants and not doing all the other things we're responsible for. So the community is a huge help in that. And I see a lot of folks kind of adopt the hydrant informally and make sure that it's accessible, and then report back to us when there's damage or concerns there.
Okay, great. And then my other question is coming back to the Evergreen strategic initiatives. And as I was reading through the staff report, in 2024, those strategic initiatives were defined. So for example, service reliability and safety, net carbon reduction, local watershed stewardship, and community broadband. And so now looking into '25, it just says strategic initiatives. So are they defined the same way, or are they?
So I should have wrote board strategic initiatives. So that bullet was referring to the board strategic
Okay.
initiatives, which are those 4
Okay.
initiatives that you listed.
Okay, cool, thank you.
And on that topic, staff plans to coordinate a couple of workshops for the board this spring. And one of the items on that is, since we have 2 new sitting board members, is to review those strategic initiatives, present to the board an opportunity to deliberate. Do you want to further explore those initiatives? Do you want to redefine them? Do you want to reset them? And so there'll be an opportunity for the entire board to have that discussion for 2025.
Great, okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Great. Great. Thank you, fellow board members. Thank you, staff. Again, I think this is we are worlds away from what it was like 5 years ago with communications. I just think it's so important. I have heard identified over and over again with various districts and various entities how education and public outreach is so vital to our mission. People really do need to understand what we do for them, what we can do for them, and that they are real partners in this. And education is the key to that. Like they just, it's kind of the solution to everything. Ultimately, we need, moving forward, you pointed out water is a big mission this year, and behavioral changes can get us so far. I mean, like really so far, it can really change a lot of our problems. It's the solution to a lot of our problems is us changing our behavior. If we can get the public on board and understanding what their own actions can accomplish in this community is going to be super powerful and super necessary. So I'm really happy to see all the different areas that we have progressed in sharing our messaging. I hear you on the radio quite often. It's always, I heard a whole recap of our last meeting. I was like, wow, where am I? It was in my car. It was great. But I just think this is so important moving forward, and I hope we continue to have the successes that we've seen in these past couple of years. So thank you so much for the work that you two are doing, particularly, and of course the whole staff agreed that this is a team effort. So thank you. Okay. Wow, that was a lot of information. Thank you. And which brings us to our routine business. We have the treasurer's report for February 2025 to approve that, which includes probably disbursements and, fund balances and disbursements, balances for November, disbursements for December. Do we have any public comment on this routine business? Seeing none, do we have any directors' comments, things they had concerns about? Okay, in which case, do we have a motion?
I'll move the treasurer's report for February 5th, 2025.
Second?
Great. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall? Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And Director Bender is absent for the record.
Great. Bills are paid. And our final item tonight in open session, item number 15, consideration to approve the December 4th, 2024 and January 15th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Do we have any public comment on the minutes?
President Finn, I would actually ask if you could remove the minutes from January 15th of 2025. It looks like there's a director name missing in the motion for item 19, and I apologize, I just caught it when I was flipping through the packet. So if you would give me the opportunity to review the tape and add that, I'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay, I did not catch that, and I did read the minutes, so thank you. Yeah, that's fine. We will, in which case, we will leave off the January 15th minutes and only consider approving the December 4th, 2024 minutes.
So I think it's between you and Tony because we weren't here.
Right,
Well,
right.
well, I think you can still approve
You
them.
can approve if you're not here, but we weren't even a member, so I don't think so.
So how does that work? Can
With
you
only the two of us.
educate us a little bit on that?
So I believe that the minutes are simply a record of what occurred at the meeting. If you're at the meeting, obviously, you have personal knowledge and can feel comfortable approving them. If you weren't at the meeting, but you perhaps hear from a fellow board member who was at the meeting that the minutes were accurate and you accept their view that the minutes were accurate, you can approve those minutes as an accurate record of what occurred there.
Even
Whether
if
you were on the
weren't-
board or not on the board. If the minutes, if you have reason to believe that the minutes accurately reflect what occurred, then I think you can approve them. And I think you can obtain that comfort if you have someone who was there willing to say, I think these are accurate, and I'm willing to move their approval or vote for their approval.
I was an attendee at that meeting, so I did listen.
You can
But
also
not
watch
directly.
it on video
Yes.
via our website, so, which I do like to do when I miss meetings, is
So it's a long yes.
okay. Okay. Well, I also would feel, I don't know if just the two of us can pass a motion. There's only two of us. We don't have a quorum. So,
It sounds like we can vote, but
I
I
would
wouldn't,
like-
I don't need to make that motion, though.
well, did we have a motion in a second? Now that we know that we can approve the minutes for December 4th, shall we go ahead and do it? Shall we make a motion? Did we have a motion?
No.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the December 4th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes.
And I will second it since I'll take that responsibility. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
And Director Bender is absent for the record.
Okay. Learning a lot of things tonight. All right, so now we do have a few closed session items, 16, 17, and 18. Closed sessions pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, conference with legal counsel to discuss potential litigation, one case. Item number 17 is closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator General Manager Brian Wright. And finally, number 18, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee General Manager's Performance Plan Review. We will be covering these in closed session, and we will report out in a little bit. Open session is now over. Yeah, well, it's here. It'll be here when we get back.